Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, the first podcast to bring you the local fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I'm Butch Theory, and I'm here today with my trusty co-host, as always, Captain Joseph Baya. How we doing today, Joe?
I'm doing great, man. I actually went fishing this past weekend.
I saw where you got your hands dirty a little bit, brother.
A little bit, man. I had the swollen hand whenever I woke up on Monday morning, you know?
God. Here comes the complaining about being old and out of shape.
My ankles were sore.
Hey, I know how that feeling is after those 2 and 3 day trips, man. It takes me a week to recover now. How did we used to do it 7 days a week for months?
We did it 7 days a week is how we didn't
we were
punch on a keyboard like I do all the time now, you know?
That's true.
Hey, if
youth was on our side,
if there was like a 36-hour trip where I had to punch on a keyboard for like 34 or 32 of those hours, I'm your guy.
Smash it.
I would crush it. Time.
Tell us a little bit, man. We'll talk about it a little bit. What did you guys get into? Some stud grouper.
Wow. That's all I can say about that. We were fishing on your brother's boat, the Escape, out of Dolphin Island. Had a good mixed group of guys. That guy did not show up, believe it or not. That guy did not show up.
I didn't
get the joke. No, I was no one's masturbator this week.
Well, Joe, I can assure you that you were still the masturbator of that trip.
I was. Speaking of that, fresh meat, that's the key, man. We caught some really good bait. It's good live bait all around. Any of the nearshore rigs, the ships at anchorage, anywhere you look, there was good, butterbean hardtails, sardines, threadfin herrings, live cigar minnows. Bait was easy to come by, so that was a good start for us.
Heck yeah.
Caught our bait on the way out. Man, it was a little bit cooler, so that was really nice. But found our amberjacks. Got a limit of amberjacks. Had a real good bite on them. All nice fish. 30 to 40 pound fish.
Rocks or rigs?
Yeah, deep water rocks. Didn't need to go to any rigs, and man, I sure did enjoy watching those guys get their butt kicked by those amberjack. And I was appreciative that I was not the one holding the rod. Amberjack are just brutal. They are brutal. That's a brutal fight. But I digress. Amberjack was really good. We spent a little bit of time in the Marlin Triangle, Ram Powell beer can area. It's pretty slow. Really slow, actually. A lot of blackfins. That's stretching it. There were blackfins there. Sharks were just as plentiful. So, about every 3 blackfins you'd catch, you'd get one to the boat hole. So
to the what?
One to the boat in one piece.
Gotcha.
Not the boat hole.
Okay. Just making sure all that.
Right.
No marlins? Didn't see any stick nose?
No billfish. Found some mahi, or dolphin, as we like to call them here on the Alabama Gulf Coast.
The fish so nice they named it twice.
Man, we had a really cool dolphin bite. We found a group of dolphin, and we were actually at the weather buoy, believe it or not, and found a group of dolphin and hooked those fish up. We were doing the whole conveyor belt deal, kind of had to keeping one in the water, and one of those fish hooked up, and it ended up being about 26-pound bull dolphin.
Dang, that's a good one.
Got the angler completely on the other side of the buoy. So I look out the stern of the boat and he's fighting it. He's got his rod pointed over here. The dolphin's on the other side of the buoy, 90 degrees from him, jumping up in the air. And I was looking at his line was wrapped around the buoy. I said, man, free spool it. So he put it in the free spool. Skipper did a great job getting around the buoy and getting over there. We fought that fish, caught that fish. So it had some excitement, had a good dab of mahi. So that was great. But the highlight of the trip was really the deep dropping. Skipper's got a sweet new transducer set up on that boat, and we were really able to see a lot deeper than what we had in the past. I mean, in the past we could always tell how deep it was. We couldn't really tell a whole lot of what was there.
Right.
And, we found some new spots, just kind of exploring right there on the shelf, about 750 feet of water, using that Daiwa Tanacom reel and deep drop and setup. We crushed some big snowy grouper. I think we had 15 snowies and yellow edges, all 15 to 35 pounds.
Making my mouth water.
Yeah. And we ended up catching a good 10 barrel fish. You ever caught a barrel fish?
I don't know that I've ever caught one, but I've definitely put them on the boat before. And it's been a while, definitely.
They look like I don't know. There's kind of a gray, kind of ugly-ish fish, but great eating. I've eaten them before. That was the first time I've been on a boat when we caught some, but we had some really good deep dropping action. Good dab of beeliners, another bottom fish, ton of triggerfish. Unfortunately, had to throw all those back. But yeah, man, lost a wahoo right at the boat.
Oh no, whose fault is that? Who can we blame for that, Chris?
Well, in this case, we
Chad?
we can blame the angler on this one.
Okay. We can't do that. You know that.
Well,
always right.
it wasn't. There's nothing to blame him. He had never caught the deal with wahoo. You get them up near the boat, you got to keep that line tight, and if you don't keep that line tight, you get that big old trolling lead on there.
Yeah, that's tricky.
And you put just a little bit of belly in that line. The fish shakes his head, and already there, that fish was a big fish. If a 50-pound fish hitting a trolling lure going 14 knots, there's already a pretty big hole in their mouth, and
it's already a volatile situation.
Yeah, I mean, if you're catching a wahoo, you've got to focus on keeping that line tight. If you let it go slack for just a little bit, you're going to lose that fish. And that they always come unbuttoned right after you see them right next to the boat.
Oh yeah.
And we got a good look at him, about a 6-foot long wahoo, and bye he went. But pretty water, good water, man. Not a ton of life. Not where we were. Not a ton of
surprising.
Not a whole lot of flying fish. It's just not quite happening in there at those close floaters.
Did y'all try for a sword at night? Were y'all anywhere that would have been applicable?
We did not. We held up all night long.
Oh, God.
It was rough. It was pretty rough out there, so we had to hold up behind the rig all night long, and missed out on the sword fishing activity. But we're going to be talking with Angelo Depaola a little bit later in the show. He's got a good offshore report when we're talking Bluewater from a little bit further out. So there are some fish to be caught. You just got to be ready to go after them and get them. But before we get to Angelo, who we got first?
I think we're going to go down and see what old Captain Patric Garmeson's doing. See if he's been in the pumpkin patch still with them picking out them pumpkin red. What'd you say, Captain Patric? What you been up to, buddy? Where you been? You been north, east, south? I never know where you been fishing. What's going on?
I have actually been everywhere but southwest. So all fish have been safe from seeing me around Mississippi Sound and the Southwest Bay. But northwest and all down the eastern shore, I've been stomping around there a pretty good bit.
What happened down there? Did Bobby shoot a flare at you or something last time you came?
I bet Bobby's been chasing them.
Yeah, I can't hold a candle to Bobby when we're down there. So I just try to stay out. Just know my limitations.
Wow, just a true concession. That's rare.
White flagged it and left.
Right, I'm done. Give up.
Been finding
no,
trout?
I just haven't.
I know you've been on the redfish. Been finding any trout bites?
Yeah, man. We finally saw water temperatures drop below 80. And they're staying below 80. And we found some speckled trout the last few days. We have found them way north of the interstate. We found them below the interstate. We found them in Weeks Bay, Fish River, Magnolia River, all of those places today. And they seem to be like they're wanting to behave now. Like, the normal things you would expect a speckled trout to do would be eat a live shrimp under a popping cork. Mm-hmm. They're doing that. So it's certainly making life easier for me to spread it out where we don't have to sit there and just chase redfish all day long. I mean, I got guys that's all they want to do, and I'm fine with that. But, to mix things up a little bit, the trout fishing is starting to pick up and improve. I haven't checked like Dog River or Fowl River, anything in any of those areas, but I would imagine those are starting to fire up a little bit as well.
Patrick, you're talking about those speckled trout eating a live shrimp under a popping cork. Are you starting to see the classic birds working those shrimp and finding fish that way?
No, nothing hot and heavy there, but if you do pay attention to some of these, most people call them lyrebirds, or the terns that they'll sit there and dive a spot, and you get over there close and they friggin' take off and leave. Well, they were diving there for a reason. It might be that they're diving on glass minnows or something, but those guys have helped us find a few fish. The only time that I've found like really heavy bird activity was last week down at Weeks Bay, but it turned out to be mostly white trout. We picked up a few specks, but they were in some deeper water pushing shrimp all the way to the surface, and it looked like a classic fall pattern. But I haven't seen any of that north of the causeway just yet.
Well, that's promising.
So,
whenever you are finding a trout, what are you finding them on?
Shallow water, and I am finding some slicks popping up. So if you are observant and start looking for some slicks, then they're helping to find some of the fish. I talked about it a couple weeks ago about the mullet being everywhere. So that's still the case. Mullet aren't really helping me find many fish just because they're everywhere. But I have noticed a little bit of a trend of a lot more pogies pushing up on the flats and in the bays, those shallow bays up in north of the causeway. There's some trout and redfish mixed in with those guys. So if you start noticing some pelicans diving, that's another clue to show you that there's some life on those flats and worth making a drift through.
Patric, quantify shallow water for me.
Shallow water, 4 foot or less. And there's days when we may go in as shallow as 18 inches, 2 feet or so as far for chasing trout, and then redfish will go shallower than that.
When you're fishing shallow water, if you're fishing, let's say, a flat, are you in the shallow water fishing the shallow water, or are you putting your boat, on the outside and kind of casting into that shallow water? Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's sometimes when that's the case. If you're on a really narrow flat, something that's not like something that you would drift over, but a lot of what I'm gonna target this time of year are big vast flats, something like where the water remains the same depth at somewhere between 1.5 to 3.5 feet deep, and you can just let that wind just push you across there and cover a lot of water. This is the time of the year when we did see where we would get a bite, stick the power poles down, and catch 8, 10, or 15 trout at one stop. So that's when these fish are really starting to bunch up better, and then that's how you end up filling the cooler up if you're keeping some fish is stopping yourself on that first bite and sticking it out for a little bit.
Are those fish in that type of scenario, are those fish just orienting to bait that's on that flat, or are they orienting to some kind of structure? Why are they there?
Some of them seem to be orienting to some sort of bottom structure. It might be as simple as a log on the bottom, or maybe some oyster shells, or maybe they're on the edge of the grass. There's a lot of grass on the causeway right now, and there's a lot of fish that are tending to kind of use the edge of the grass as a way of ambushing some bait as it's coming off. The bait will stay up on top of the grass till kind of the last minute. Then the fish will feed right on the edge of the grass. But yeah, I mean, there is some structure orientation today. Like today, we caught some trout in around some dock pilings where we were targeting redfish, and that's where the trout ended up being, was in there tight to structure. So that may have been because of that little front push through today, but there's not any one particular structure that seems to be holding fish better than others. The main thing is you can target your fish a lot easier if you get shallow and use popping corks to attract that fish to you.
With regards to those redfish, is that your main structure that you're targeting, is these docks, or where are you finding them?
So the reds along the causeway, we've been focusing a lot of that on grass, the edge of the grass, and then once the tide comes in, we'll get on top of the grass beds. A little tip there: if you get on top of these grass beds and you're throwing a popping cork, you're going to find that you're going to start grassing up on your lead or on your hook, whether you're using a live bait or artificial bait. Just kind of notice try to notice how much you're grassing up, and if you need to shallow that leader up a little bit. I mean, sometimes, like Monday, we were on top of some grass, and we ended up catching reds on leaders that were about 10 or 12 inches long below the popping cork, just because that's what we needed to be able to stay on top of the grass without our baits getting down into the grass. So that's something to keep in mind.
Definitely. I saw some pictures of some convicts. Are those in any numbers, or are those just incidentals?
They're incidental, but they're becoming more and more common. We're catching them around the grass beds. We're catching them around some wood structure. But typically this time of year, they're a lot like a flounder, where a flounder moves up into the rivers and estuaries, and then they start filling those cold fronts. They start headed south, start moving towards the Gulf. Sheephead do the same thing. Their migration is a little bit slower towards the Gulf because their goal is to be there in January, February time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll start really bunching up at the mouth of the rivers like Tensall and Mobile and Appalachia. Foul River, I've found a lot of them before. They'll bunch up around Dog River Bridge. So a lot of the areas where they'll start staging up in these areas. I'm not seeing anything like that just yet, but for the most part, we're catching them as bycatch when we're targeting redfish. Shrimp under a popping cork around a grass bed is gonna find you a nice convict or redfish.
Awesome, man! You can't beat that. It's good to see those are showing up already.
Yep, and it's been it's a nice addition if you're keeping some fish to throw a nice sheephead in the box. Heck
yeah, adds a little color or lack thereof, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, man. We'd like to get that tip from you every week. This week's onshore tip is brought to us by KillerDock. I hadn't even realized how bad it was. I was cleaning fish on rotten wood, and after cleaning just a few fish, I was filthy, and I had a sunburn. I tried wearing a hat, but it just couldn't keep me cool. And how was I supposed to clean fish without getting messy? KillerDock brings that upgrade. Not only will it keep me cool and clean, it will make being on my dock enjoyable again. KillerDock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit KillerDock.com to check out the greatest fish cleaning stations known to mankind. What you got for a tip this week, bud?
I want to step back a little bit, kind of bring something out of the archives that Richard Rutland talked about before with the monitoring the actual water movement versus what these projected tides are. There's a lot of tide charts out there, and there's a lot of different ways that you can get tidal information based on predictive measures. But I want our anglers to understand that is really a guide to say that, all right, my graph shows that it's going to go from being somewhere near high tide at 2 a.m. and somewhere near low tide at 2 p.m. Well, don't take that as gospel that that's exactly what's going to happen. And the reason, there's several different things that could be involved. It could blow a south wind that evening and then switch around to a north wind, and it just moves water a lot faster in one direction or another. So what you need to do is keep an eye on that NOAA website, where you can actually go to the specific stations. Like if I'm fishing the Causeway, I like to monitor the one at the Coast Guard station and kind of base my moves off of that. And I watch that in real time, because all you have to do is just load that onto your phone. It's a website. So you go to the website and then just hit refresh every time you want to see what the changes are. Yeah, bookmark it.
I keep that one bookmarked. You're talking about the tides and currents.noaa.gov. And last time you guys, I think it was Richard that was talking about it, and I put it on my phone. And I'll check that, the tides and currents.noaa.gov real time. I'll refresh it, and I'll check it against my other tides app. And dude, sometimes it's a couple hours off. And that'll mess up your whole day.
It really can. If you're trying to make your moves based on a prediction, if you're 2 or 3 hours difference, then you're going to be in the wrong spot all day long. If you even if you had a really good plan to say, all right, on the incoming tide I need to be here, on the falling tide I need to be here, at slack tide I need to be here, and you're following a predictive chart, you're going to be missing all day long. Whereas if you're following something that's actually occurring and actually printing on that you can see on the website,
real time,
then you can really make real adjustments to what you're doing. And it's been probably an hour and a half to 2 hours off every day the last probably over 2 weeks now. We've had ridiculously high water on the causeway in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not happening as they predicted. And it's not anybody's fault. That's just how things happen.
Mm-hmm.
You have wind-driven currents and all this stuff. So that's a huge tip that I think people need to pay attention to when they're in the act of fishing and they're out there. Like I said, there are people that are paying attention to knowing that, hey, this grass flat when it starts draining out, it's going to get better. And when this one starts filling up, it's going to get better. If you watch that stuff in real time, you'll have a better idea on when you need to make those moves and when you need to be in position to strike. And it's helped me out a lot, because there were times where I thought I was in the right spot, and then I look at it and it's like, oh crap, the tide turned 45 minutes ago, and we've been sitting here trying to make something work. I thought the tide was still falling, and it's time to get out of there, because if we were there for 45 minutes on the incoming tide and I thought it was still falling and then nothing was happening, it's not going to get any better. So keeping an eye on that stuff is definitely going to help. An angler that's paying attention to those sort of things, it's going to take him or her another step to the right, and into being a better angler and being more self-aware as to what they're doing.
Patric, if somebody wants to eschew everything you've just said, pay no attention to the tide charts, and just book a trip with you and let you do it, how do they do it?
That's right.
Oh, that's a great question, Joe. I'm glad you brought it up. They can give me a shout. They can call me 251-747-1554. I got a lot of people texting me just questions and stuff like that.
What are you wearing? Like that kind of stuff?
Yeah. What color boat is yours again?
Yeah.
What
color eyes do you have?
Yeah, that happens all the time, Joe. So text message, call me, then go to my website, uglyfishing.com. You can click the book now button, check out my live calendar, see if you have some dates that match up with some open dates of mine, and you can go ahead and book it right then and there. And then also I want to bring up something about a text message. Is I have started a little group of anglers who are interested in kind of getting a weekly update of what things are going on, and I'm telling them about some open dates and stuff. And so if anybody wants to be involved in like a weekly text message group, it's a text that goes straight to you. It's not a group text. So
I was just fixing to say, can they respond? Because if so, I do not want to the group text or
it's not 100.
The worst invention ever.
It's not 400 likes because somebody commented. No.
Good deal.
So if anybody wants to be involved in that, just shoot me a text, say they want in. So I'll add them to the list.
Sounds good, Patric. Well, hey, man, as always, thanks for being with us today, and good luck with the rest of your fall. I know we'll be talking to you again soon, and stay safe out there, buddy.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Joe. That's a pretty awesome inshore report. Like to hear that things are heating up north of the causeway and otherwise as well. Where are we headed next, man?
Let's go see what's going on the kayaking world. We got Scott Kennedy on the line. How you doing, Scott? Been a while.
Oh, yeah. Doing good, guys. How y'all doing?
We're doing great, man. For the folks that maybe this is the first time hearing you, you do the majority of your fishing from a kayak. You do a little bit of surf fishing guiding as well, but tell us what's been going on the kayaking side of things. You guys are somewhat limited with your range, so it's always interesting to hear what's going on. I still consider this an onshore report, because if you got to pick your boat up and put it in the water, that counts as far as I'm
Agreed.
concerned. What's been going on?
There we go. We've been doing a lot of fishing this week. Of course, most of it's been the inshore fishing, and it's been a little bit of a tough week for us. We've been catching a lot of the smaller fish, like the white trout, having to weed through a lot of pinfish and croakers. But we're catching a few redfish here and there. So not to be completely discouraged. There still are some redfish to be caught. And, I did have one pretty good day last week. I fished a little deeper water and was able to get on some redfish. And I think that's been, kind of the key for the inshore lately is just, finding a little deeper water. And that's one thing that's tough for us in the kayaking world is we're kind of, like you said, we're stuck close to shore. So making those home runs can be a little difficult, but if you do have access to kind of deeper water, I would say, try to focus on that.
Let's talk about that a little bit, Scott. Let's talk about your range a little bit. I personally have not done a lot of kayak fishing, but it's something that I'm interested in adding to the repertoire, mainly because I've got a young child, and as he gets a little bit older, I'd like for him to be able to start to experience a little bit of fishing, but maybe in a little bit more controlled way and that kind of thing. Kayak fishing is one of those things that interests me. When you talk about being limited in range on a given day, how far will you go, say round trip? Have you ever tracked it? You ever just GPS track to see, hey, I went 6 miles today or I went 2 miles today? What's a reasonable amount?
I'm a little spoiled. I have the Hobie foot pedal drive, so I am able to cover a little bit more. A typical day for me, I might do anywhere from 3 to 5 miles. But like I said, having those foot pedals kind of makes that a little bit easier.
Oh yeah.
I know a lot of paddle guys. A good long day for them might be 2 or 3 miles, and that's kind of pushing it there. So we're stuck to, and that's going out and coming back in. That's not just 2 or 3 miles, one direction. That's kind of, the whole trip, everything you do, every little bit of paddling, it starts to add up. So, but, anywhere from that 2 to 5 mile range.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I didn't mean to get you off topic there, but I think that's kind of key if you're trying to plan a trip is to say, okay, if I've got a Mirage drive, and I'm pedaling, maybe I've got a 5 mile range. If I'm paddling, then maybe I've got a 2-3 mile range. Kind of helps you narrow down what kind of area you're going to be able to focus on, how much ground you're going to be able to cover. So inshore's been a little slow, but you've been doing a little bit of offshore fishing, right?
Oh yeah, we've of course Alabama opened up some snapper days at the beginning of the month, and Florida over across the state line, they ended up opening up snapper season the last 3 weekends of the month. So we decided, me and my wife decided to make a trip over there this past Sunday, and we ended up doing pretty good. We went over to Navarre Beach there, which Navarre, they've got a pretty cool setup for the kayakers there. They kind of cater to kayak fishing a little bit over there, and they've got a nice little kind of boardwalk launch to get you over the dunes and everything, to have a nice easy drag. And then one thing they do over there that's really, really nice is they put out a lot of public reefs over there. Within probably about, they start around 2 miles. Some of them stretch out to 2.5 miles, and they're perfect for us kayakers because, you get a good calm day and you can go out there, and over on that side of the line, being out 2 miles, you're in anywhere from 50 to 70 feet of water. And those reefs they've put out are loaded down with snapper. And so we were able to get out there, and we each got our 2 snapper. After we got our snapper, we decided we were going to troll around a little bit. And we're just pulling some dusters and happened to look up, and we were looking in the right direction at the right time, saw something in the sky, come up out of the water, had that perfect green flash, and kind of immediately knew what that was, and beelined over there and got near where we saw the jump and looked below us, and there's just a big school of mahi. And a lot of them were the chicken-sized dolphins, kind of that 2 to 3 pound. But we were able to pull 4 of them out of the group that were, upwards of 10 pounds. And
nice
from a kayak time, that's about as good as we can get. That's like finding a unicorn for us offshore almost. And
that's awesome. That's what we call those turkey dolphin. A little bit bigger, a little bigger than a chicken.
Yeah, I tell you, they all eat the same though, and they. But yeah, we ended up, started out throwing some some small jigs at them, just some little flashy jigs, and pulled a couple off. Ended up breaking one off and lost our jig. And from there, we just started throwing out some cut bait. You know, we had our snapper bait laying out, and kind of caught us off guard. You know, our main plan was just to troll for kings. wasn't expecting to get on any big mahi like that or anything. So kind of caught with our hands tied, but started dropping that cut bait down, and they did not seem to mind that either. And we ended up pulling up. Like I said, we got 6 of them, so it turned out to be a fantastic day out there.
That's a lot of fun. I know that's a lot of fun. Let's talk a little bit about the offshore kayak fishing, because I know in the fall, especially over off of Florida, where you got a little bit cleaner water, which is not a bad drive. I mean, if you're coming out of Mobile County, Baldwin County, Alabama, or if you're in any of the southeastern counties of Alabama or the northwest Florida counties, it's not a big deal to drive down to Navarre, Destin, Santa Rosa Beach, Panama City Beach. It depends on kind of what's south of you or east of you. That's easily a day trip. And this time of year, you get mahi coming in close, you get blackfin tuna coming in close, you get sailfish coming in close. It's realistic to think that you're going to run across those kinds of fish very near shore if you go enough. You fish a Hobie Pro Angler, which is one of the heavier kayaks that is common, right? Is launching from the beach a challenge for you, or is it something that you feel like is pretty easy to handle? Most any angler could pretty much handle it.
It can definitely be challenging. It is certainly something you want to be very careful doing. A lot of people that have fished with me have kind of heard me joke around, and if there's one thing in kayak fishing I could do away with, it would be surf launches, because it is by far probably the most nerve-wracking part of kayak fishing. But, with that being said, there's, if you're confident with your paddling ability, you're careful with everything you do, do your research and everything, it can be, fairly simple once you've done it a couple times. It is certainly daunting, especially, if it's not a calm day, getting through those breakers can definitely be very tough.
Do you run a Hobie Pro Angler for your clients as well that you take, or do you have different types of kayaks?
For the clients, we mostly use Outbacks, and then we've got a couple of the new compasses. The Pro Angler is a little bit heavy. It can be a little bit of a beast trying to get used to. So having that lighter, the lighter Outback, it's a little sleeker, cuts through the water a little quicker. For somebody fresh off in a kayak, having that lighter, sleeker kayak is a little bit easier to manage.
Scott, I understand that you recently got married.
I did. We tied the knot. It's been about 3 weeks ago now. And
I'll tell you. Congratulations, my friend. That's a great thing. Start of many great things to come. And I wish you guys the best. But what I really want to know is, have you ever tandem kayaked with your wife?
In the same kayak?
I tell you, we have not tandem, and
you should have done that before you got married, man.
That is definitely a deal breaker. My wife and I don't do kayaks. Yeah. We don't do tandem kayaks. We don't do tandem bikes. She can't ride on an ATV with me. We don't do anything together. We have to have our separate vehicles for sure. But we knew that before we got married.
I tell you, that's what I've run across a couple couples, in a tandem kayak, and I tell you, it is never a pretty sight.
I believe that.
Oh man, well that's cool, man. It sounds like right now is a pretty good time to get out there. If you're just a short drive from the Florida coastline, you can get out and get on some snapper on those nearshore reefs. Let me ask you this: we've got a lot of times this time of year we get these cold fronts coming. We'll get a north wind, and when you get to the beach, man, it's just slick calm, right? You get there and you think, boy, that looks great. About how far do you have to get off the beach to where you start to feel that wind? If your launch is going to be easy, but how far do you get out before that north wind really starts to stir things up?
Yeah, I tell you, I haven't really encountered it too bad yet. You get to the point where, a couple 100 yards out where it'll start to, kind of blow you and you'll start to get pushed around by the wind. But I tell you, as far as out as I've gone, which, I try to keep it within 3 miles or so, you don't really feel you really don't feel the wind building up the swells or anything. Kind of the most we deal with would be just a little bit of wind chop, and like I said, you feeling the wind blow your kayak around. But generally that north wind for us in kayak range, you don't feel it pick up the swells or anything.
So when you see one of those fronts coming in, I mean, if you've got bluebird, typical, kind of right after a cold front, you got north wind, you got bluebird skies. That's a good time to maybe try offshore, beach kayaking, right? I mean, it seems like that's the easiest time to launch.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's when I'm planning an offshore trip and I'm looking for conditions. The number one thing I look for is a north wind. If you have that north wind, it's generally going to be pretty calm out there for you. Very
cool. All right, buddy. Well, guess what? You got this week's Hey Cap question. It's brought to us by Foster Contracting. The recent thunderstorms have been producing wind and hail in the area, and they may have damaged your home's roof. The certified roofing pros at Foster Contracting offer free roof inspections, and if your roof has received damage, most homeowners will have little or no cost out of pocket when going through your insurance. If you are looking for quality construction with a dependable, licensed, and certified fortified roofing professional, give the Fortified Roofing Pros a call at 251-973-9999. They're a family-owned business that is big enough to get the job done, but small enough to care. Remember to support the local businesses that make your local podcast possible, and check them out at fortifiedroofingpros.com. Scott Peyton Clement asks, hey, Cap, with us going into fall, what kind of structure or areas should we focus on to find fish? Well, that's kind of a two-part question based on what we said today, Scott. Inshore and offshore, what kind of structure do you focus on to find fish?
Oh, yeah. So inshore this time of year, I'm looking around the mouths of these rivers, any kind of, docks, stumps, old piers, rock piles, anything like that, that you can find, right around, like I said earlier, the deeper the water, the better, and just kind of focusing around near the mouths of these coastal rivers. As far as offshore, us kayakers, they, like I said, the public reefs they have started putting out, in Florida especially, and even to Alabama to an extent, you can find some that are in a little bit deeper water. But any of these nearshore public reefs are perfect places to start out. Once I'm out there, I definitely keep my eyes peeled for anything floating, whether it be just a palm frond from the beach or, just maybe an old piece of driftwood log, anything floating like that, that's of course going to hold a lot of fish usually. And turtles. I like to look for turtles too. So, but as far as offshore, that I would say the number one thing I'm looking for are nearshore reefs or, wrecks or something like that.
Scott, what's your go-to resource for those Florida reefs? Where are they listed where folks can easily find all the public numbers that are out there?
If you go to the FWC website, they've got a few listed on there. But I tell you, they're actually, Florida is kind of tough to find them. The best thing you can do is just hop on Google and just Google Florida nearshore reefs. And, after you go through, I kind of what I did was I just went through a bunch of pages, and it's like one page might give you 2 or 3 here, and the next page will give you 2 or 3 there, and you just kind of build them up. That is the only thing bad about the Florida reefs is they're not quite as easy to get a hold of as the Alabama reefs, but they're definitely out there if you if you look on Google and the FWC websites.
Folks want to get up with you and plan an offshore trip or an inshore trip and try kayaking out. Maybe they're new to it, or maybe they're in the area for a while and they just like kayaking. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can shoot me an email at kayaking.kennedy@gmail.com. And I'm also set up on Fishing Chaos now. So you can go to fishingchaos.com and you can find all my information and available dates and everything on there too.
Excellent. All right, Scott. Well, good deal, man. Sounds like you guys are having some fun getting out there. Stay safe out there, buddy. We'll talk to you again soon.
Perfect. We'll see y'all guys later.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, Butch. Always good to hear some fish are close in, but I like to go a little further offshore. I want to hear about what's going on way off. To do that, let's talk to Angelo Depaola, the Coastal Connection. What you say, Angelo? How's Bluewater been?
Man, well, look, unfortunately for me, I've not been, but fortunately for you guys and listeners, I have a lot of friends that have been, so I have a lot of really good reports from the weekend.
The old hearsay report. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, let's just get right down to the meat of it, because people are wondering what's going on and where the fish are biting. So talked to some guys out of Destin. I'm not sure if the line's still there, but I wouldn't even have cared to have kept that many dolphin. They had a pile of dolphin, wahoos, nice blue marlin. We were talking about wahoo fishing a couple weeks ago, and so I was telling a buddy of mine, I was like, they're in close right now, so they went out about 10 miles and started putting baits out. They're going to pull a 3-line spread of high-speed baits. So they put the first 2 baits out, and we're getting ready to put the third out. Boom, doubled up on wahoo. They fished probably about a half a day. They had 8 wahoos, and they're coming out of Florida. So they went and caught their limit snapper and came on in.
That's a good day.
You've got a lot of fish in close. Wahoo and dolphin are in close right now. Good buddy of mine, Eric Krigler, freaking little fishing over on the steps area, caught his first daytime swordfish with Kyle Smith, who runs a Skin Deep, 305-pound fish. What we had this weekend was we're coming up on a full moon, so just always feel like those couple days right before a full is really good for swordfish, but also billfish and everything else. So it's really interesting on the backside of the full moon for the nighttime swordfish, and it just really drops off. It's not even worth doing, in my opinion. And then you had a couple guys that ran long. Chili on the triple threat went out of Orange Beach. They caught 3 blue marlin, 2 nice tuna kickers. And it's interesting, the tunas, there's not a whole ton of them, but they're all like 130, 120, 140-pound fish. I know Miles Cawley on the Born to Run, they went 3 for 5 on blue marlin with 3 big tunas. Ronnie on the liquid apple, they caught a blue and 2 big tunas, and I think they caught all their fish trolling. And he told me they were on Horn, Delta House, and Nikika on those fish. I mean, so it'd been kind of slow going. We'd had all this warm weather, and we're finally just now falling into a fall pattern. The water's still a little bit on the warm side, so it's happening. I know Sean Clemens on the Breed, he's breed real deep. They caught a blue and a bunch of dolphins this weekend. So my guess is when we get if we got a break in the weather, you can get out and fish. The next couple of weeks, it's going to be pretty phenomenal fishing.
It sounds like it would pay off to focus on a little bit bigger bait. From listening to your report and also some of the reports coming out of Dolphin Island, a lot of the tuna that are being caught, and when I'm saying tuna, I'm speaking of yellowfin, are being caught on small black.
That's what Duncan was saying.
Fins, live bonitas.
Yeah. Either marlin fishing or just incidental, depredation kind of stuff. So, like you say, it sounds like there's not a ton of fish, but the fish that are there are high quality. And
oh yeah.
All right, Angelo. That brings us to our offshore tip, man. This week's offshore tip is brought to us by Hilton's Offshore Charts. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Thank goodness. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check it out at hiltonsoffshore.com.
Butch, Hilton's would be perfect for what Angelo was talking about previously. There's this nice rip formed up off of Destin.
Is it still there? Right.
Is it still there? Right?
Yeah. Sure.
Absolutely. Go check it out. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. Yeah. Number one, you could have found it to begin with, but now you can check because we got some wind that's going on right now. And,
oh man, I know we've said it before. Those things can move 20, 30, 40 miles a day. If the wind's in the right direction, the current's in the right direction, those things can move a lot. And that's why Hilton's is awesome. You can pinpoint it.
For sure. All right, Angelo, what you thinking for an offshore tip?
So, I guess we're talking about the tip of the day, and always everybody thinks it's really for deep drop and you've got to have the spot, but in reality, there's a lot more that goes into it. Those fish kind of move around a little bit with the bait, but my tip of the day is most of the time, like, if you got a you want a light on your rig. And I find that the green lights are superior to just about every light out there. And as far as number of the bites, I mean, of course, you can get on, only find a special spot like what you guys found. It don't matter. Just throw some baits down and get bit. But the other thing that I found really interesting over the years doing it is on a full moon, good luck getting them to bite. I mean, I've just never had any luck on a full moon. And when you have a low barometric pressure, like Sunday was a nice bluebird day, from what I understand. And so you had very high barometric pressure. The fish bite much better. And you wouldn't think that something in 700-800 foot of water would make a difference. What I find is when you have bluebird days, you catch a lot of groupers. And when it's cloudy, overcast, or raining, the fish are really hard to bite. So that would be my tip. Like, look at, and I like to look at feeding times because I think that plays a big deal into it. But mainly full moon, save your time, save your fuel. Days where it's overcast, you can try, but my experience has been that the fish don't bite good.
Angelo, that's really interesting, and it's something that I'm going to start to pay a little bit closer attention to. I've heard people allude to that over the years, and there's a lot of big data coming out, where people are able to track what they're catching, when they're catching it, what the atmospheric and environmental conditions are, when they're having success and when they aren't.
Which is awesome.
It's an emerging piece of technology and another data point for anglers to make a decision going forward. So if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is if you're planning on sword fishing or you're planning on deep dropping for grouper, if you were going to schedule a trip with someone, you can't control overcast, cloudy, rainy, but you can control the moon phase. You'd be fishing the days leading up to a full moon.
Oh, yeah.
But not on a full,
totally.
And not after.
Totally. I can't tell you how many times that I've gone out and fished the weekend before full moon, absolutely crushed them. Weather's good. Next weekend we go out, strike out completely.
Right. And you got a whole different group of guys and you're telling them like, oh yeah, I was
should have been here yesterday.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They see your Facebook feed or something there. Everybody's amped up, a complete boredom fest.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, cool, man. Sounds like a good report. It's certainly good to see offshore fishing heating up, even if it is a little bit later. And tell me about the real estate market. What's going on with you in Orange Beach, Gulf Shores area?
Man, the real estate market, this is one of the misconceptions about real estate market is that people think it slows down. Actually, right now through about Thanksgiving, it's really hot. We had a lot of buyers in town. If you're thinking about listing your property right now, it's a really good time to get it on the market. It's just it's a strong market. And I'm trying to think, what do we have we're listing a nice house in Bear Point. It's not on the water, but there's always a price point buyer. It was completely renovated. We'll put it on the market probably Thursday this week. And then I have a house on the water in Wolf Bay. We just did a major price reduction, appraised at $960. We lowered the price today to $899. There's some room to move in that price. Somebody is going to get them a killer deal on a house, and I don't think it's going to last long at that price. Look, if anybody's listening, you want to get at me, 850-287-3440, or just find me on Facebook. Go to the Coastal Connection.
Angelo, as always, buddy, thanks for the report. We'll stay in touch. I'm looking forward to fishing with you in a couple of weeks, and we'll be talking to you again soon, buddy.
Awesome. Looking forward to it, guys. Later.
Thanks, Angelo. Keep whacking them.
But, this show goes by a lot faster, and it's so nice to hear that there's some fish just about anywhere you go right now. We were in that long summer doldrum, hot water, hot temperature. Fish were kind of sluggish. We're finally in that fall pattern, and, man, it's going to be so nice to put a hoodie on. And
feels good. Hope to wake up in the morning it's going to actually be fall.
Yeah, I'm ready. They keep saying it, and I keep going outside thinking I'm going to feel that first chill, the cool grass, the blades in between my toes.
But it's still just humid, and your feet are all sweaty.
It's like a wet blanket of hate every time you walk outside.
Whew, it's pretty intense. But yeah, I'm over it for sure.
Oh, well, what'd you learn this week?
I want to call you out real quick, first of all. It's much easier to talk fishing whenever you've been fishing. It's nice, man. I'm glad you got to get out and got to do some stuff.
I agree totally. I think I should go fishing a lot more than I get to go, for sure.
Me too. I totally agree with that. What did I learn? Did you already ask me that?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty awesome that you can go out of Florida just a couple of miles offshore, even with a kayak. And you and I have actually talked about diving those reefs right off Grayton Beach. I mean, you can put on your dive gear and walk to the reef.
Yeah. I mean, you go over to...
We just don't think about it. That just never crosses my mind that I can be in Santa Rosa Beach in 2.5 hours.
Yeah. You go to, like, growing up, in South Mobile County, I thought all water was dirty. You go, you go over to Okaloosa, Walton County, Panama City, Bay County. The water over there looks like the Caribbean, and you can launch a kayak from the beach, be catching snapper, grouper, king mackerel, blackfin tuna, sailfish, dolphin,
which is incredible.
And within a couple miles from shore. And here's the other thing. Here's what I learned since you asked. What's the cream of the crop kayak cost? $2,500? That's a great point. You might say that seems like a lot, but okay. Let's say it's me, my wife, and my 2 children. I only have 1 child, but
right.
You get the idea.
Plan ahead for the future. You're a planner, I know. We're
not going to tandem kayak, period.
We've already established that.
So let's say I bought everybody a cream of the crop kayak, and I'm kind of thrifty, so I'll shop used or whatever. But whatever. Let's just say I spend $2,500 a person on a nice kayak. Everybody can have a pedal drive, so we can go a little further. Whatever.
Stable.
You can even put little.
Well, what's Scott's?
They got motors on
the Hobie. What does Scott have?
Pro angler. Yeah, he's fishing the pro angler. Those things are set up. He duck hunts out of that.
Yeah, he could do whatever he wants to do.
Inshore, offshore, freshwater, saltwater.
So basically, your
diving
point is,
for what? 10 grand.
If you bought kayaks for the whole entire family, you'd spend 10 grand. Right.
Yeah.
The nicest things possible.
Show me a bay boat or an offshore boat that you can get into for that kind of money and put on the top of your car and store in your garage or behind your house.
Yeah. Well, mine's a 1982, but I can't put it on top of my car. So,
man, that kayak fishing is definitely attractive.
It's cool.
And then if you really got to scratch the itch and fish a bigger boat, go charter somebody.
Way cheaper.
Unless you're fishing every single weekend. You got to fish a lot to make that make sense. But anyway, I'm not saying don't buy a boat or buy a kayak or don't buy a kayak. I'm just saying something to think about.
You're saying this in the forefront of your mind because you've learned it.
I want everybody to freaking make a bunch of money and retire early and
fish every day.
Don't burn up your retirement funds on stuff that you can't really afford.
Agreed. So I was going to say something you can't afford.
The fact that you can run out and catch snapper, dolphin, tuna, sailfish from a kayak from the beach.
It's pretty awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Take us out of here.
All right, folks. That's going to be it this week. You guys subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast every week, just head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/ASFR, and you'll get the new show each week. What we got left, Joe?
Keep whacking them.
See you guys next week. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Geico. Call Ron Davis, Geico agent, at 251-445-0053 or visit him online at geico.com/mobile-al.
And also brought to you by CCA Alabama. Pick up your distinctive Alabama saltwater fishing license plate at revenue.alabama.gov. And also brought to you by Daycool Heating and Air, your home performance specialist. Contact them at 251-260-3858 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com. License number AL07028.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo Depaola, the Coastal Connection with EXP Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo Depaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.
And also Great Days Outdoors, the South's finest hunting and fishing magazine. Pick up your copy wherever magazines are sold or check them out at greatdaysoutdoors.com. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Fishbites. Fishbites stay on the hook longer than any natural bait. Check them out at fishbites.com.